Alright, so welcome back to another no bullshit review. And on this one, we need to talk about the Reverb Plate 140. So this is an emulation of the EMT 140. Now, if you don't know how a plate reverb works, on the description of this video, you have a link to a different video of a dude showing you a real plate reverb. You know, the original EMT 140. And it's just mind-blowing how it works. You know, how people back in the day managed to do things without the internet, without anything, without microchips. You know, everything is just analog, just pure analog magic. So if you don't want to see it, let me just give you a brief explanation how this works so you can understand the plugin as well. Because, you know, when you have a plugin, you need to understand why you have this type of sound, how it works, and, you know, pretty much why. So the sound that goes dry, you know, the dry sound, will go to a large wooden 600 pounds box. Now the signal will enter to that box preamplified. It will go through a channel and go through a magnet. So that magnet is connected to a metal plate. Now, of course, that magnet will emit a sound, will emit a signal, and that signal will hit the metal plate and produce this reverb sound. It's just crazy. And how far the metal plate is will determine how long the reverb is, you know, the tail of the reverb. Just watch that video on that link I put at the bottom. That dude is going to show you how it works in just 2 minutes because it's very, very basic how it works, but it's just magical. And again, it's explaining this with words is just absurd. You need to go and see it. Okay, so let's go back to what we care. So they released an emulation of the EMT 140. And again, this is just like this spring reverb. It has its own sound. It's not a real sound. It's not a real reverb. Of course, with halls or churches or any other types of reverbs, you get an emulation of a real space. So a plate is not a real space. It's just a wooden box with a metal plate that will just generate this sound, just like a spring is, right? It's just an emulation of a real thing. Of course, they did the emulation of the EMT because it's a legendary kind of a reverb unit. Back in the day, everyone used it. Today, it's just a plate reverb, just another type of reverb. And okay, so I'm going to go right here. I'm going to show you first, going to turn it off and show you where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it on the snares because one of the most common things we do is to add a plate reverb to the snares. So I'm going to go, and this is a snare. Dry as F. Okay. So as soon as I turn on, and notice I'm on the default patch, I'm going to go here and select default, and I'm going to turn it on, and right from the start is that, which is crazy. Okay. So the controls are very basic. You get a drive control because remember, when the signal goes into the unit, into the wooden large box, it gets preamplified. So you are providing a preamplified stage. So you have a preamp stage. So of course, if you don't use the reverb, you go all the way on the blend dry. You're not adding any plate, but you can do a little bit of drive and add a little bit of saturation to the signal. Notice it's different. Okay, of course, it's very subtle. It's not like the spring reverb of Arturia, which is pretty nasty. This one is very smooth. All right. So the next thing you get, of course, is going to be the actual reverb. You can, of course, use the blend, and you can make it mono if you wish. Notice it's mono. Or you can go super wide. Okay, so then you have the decay time, and this is how long the tail of the reverb is. You know how long the tail is. So on the original unit, you have kind of a lever to move the plate back and forward, and it's a kind of a lever of submarine style. I don't even know the technical name for that. Maybe you can you know, put something on the comments. But in this case, instead of that lever, we get some buttons. So as you go and do minus, the plate, it's very close to the magnet. So the tail of the reverb is going to be very short. right? Super short. Even though we can really hear the reverb, it's super short. And as you go down or just further, the plate is going to move to the back, and then you get this massive plate reverb. All right, so it's super nice. Okay, so let me just... One thing I would like is to, move this with the mouse. You cannot do it. You cannot do that. It's not possible on the plugin. You can only go here. And the problem is that you need to, and then, just press several times. And it's just a bit annoying. Maybe we could add Arturia. Maybe we can add a nice dragging right here. So you get 3 different models. And the number 2 is the classic EMT, is the EMT 140, all right? And the other ones are just different versions. It doesn't say on the manual. If you go to read the manual of this plugin, it's not that good. I mean, they don't give you a lot of information, and I will tell you why you don't get a lot of information on my conclusion at the end of the video. But the first one, it says that it's punchy, and the last one, it's more modern. And I can say that this is very accurate. So this one has a more punchy sound, more punchy. And the other one, it will emphasize the higher frequencies. And we can really hear that. So they're very different. So again, the first one is punchy. The classic EMT is a bit more smooth. And the other one is just a lot of high frequencies. That's how it works. So that's it. That's the whole unit. You don't get a lot. Now, of course, just using this and providing a little bit of the plate, maybe with a short decay or something like that, it will change how this sounds, how the snare sounds. So right now we have this and dry, and this will change how the track sounds. So let me just play the whole track. If I turn this off, super dry. Just a bit more depth. Alright, so if I go to a different section, it's much more depth. If I go crazy on the decay, of course it's gonna go crazy. If you want more of the highs, maybe you can go to the third one and go maybe not so crazy on the blend. All right. So, this is again a plate reverb, and it just gives you that. It's very simple plugin, just a very simple plugin, but it will give you that, plate reverb type of vibe. Now then, if you go to the advanced section, you get more options, and these ones are very important. Now, of course, this is not part of the original unit. You don't get anything like this on the original unit. On the original unit, you just have the input and you can move forward and backwards, and that's it, right? It's very basic. And these ones are very important because you can go, let me go more on the blend. You can move the pre-delay to the reverb sound. It will start 100, in this case 100 milliseconds. You can go up to 250. It will start really late. So the initial sound, the initial snare sounds, and then the 250 milliseconds after, the reverb sound is gonna sound. It's just like adding a delay to the actual reverb, right? Of course, this is 250. It's a bit absurd. Maybe somewhere around 22 or maybe 15, it's enough. Depends on the track and how fast the track is. You can do the math. And then you get a high peak filter. So notice that the snare has quite a low end, right? So when it hits the reverb, we can hear a lot of the low end, which is sometimes is not that good, right? We need to fix this. So what we can do, we can filter the sound that comes in. And let me just go back to the sound because it just died. All right. So notice how it sounds. So let me go all the way wet. So we are removing all the low frequencies. That's what we are doing. And of course, the reverb sound will react differently, will sound different. Because we are feeding the reverb less low frequencies. Now, of course, if I go all the way wet, this sounds really crappy. But if I do more of the dry than the wet, it sounds cool. More nasal, of course. Okay. So of course you can do high pass filter before it goes to the reverb, and then you could do a modulation. We're going to talk about this one in a second, and then you get the post equalizer. And this is of course the same thing as this, in much more detail. We get much options, but this one is post. You will be equalizing the sound that comes out. So if I go all the way, to the wet, and I activate this, I don't like the low frequencies of this one. So what I can do, I can go maybe right here to the 300s, and I can lower the gain in this one. So it's just like putting an EQ after this plugin and removing low frequencies. Maybe you want to boost the high frequencies, right? I'm gonna go right there to the maybe there, and boost it. And then you get that nice tail. Super nice. Off. Right, so very, very cool. So of course, if you don't want to use it, you can avoid using it. So the modulation, it's not something super great. I mean, it's cool. What this is a kind of a chorus. It's just adding a little bit of chorus to the signal. Now we are not gonna hear a lot of this on this snare. Let me just select a different track. Okay, so I'm on a different track. It's an ARP. Pretty simple ARP. I'm gonna make it more mono. And then I'm gonna go and just turn this on and see what happens. Let me adjust this. I'm gonna go, turn it on. And there we go. Of course, it's just too much. Maybe there. I'm gonna go right here at the bottom. We have the post equalizing, I'm gonna turn it off. And then we have the modulation. So I'm gonna go and do active. And go all the way wet. So this one, what it does it changes how the width sounds. Now it changes the width. And it's because it's adding a nice kind of a chorus type of thing. This is just modulating this. So it's not letting me change this. So let's see why. Oh, there we go. This was not changing. Can you hear the chorus sound? It's very subtle. Of course, on this one, you need to you listen on speakers and yeah, you're gonna need to use good headphones for this one. It's very subtle, even though I'm going all the way in. The other way. So that's it. It will add a little bit of modulation, which is a chorus to the sound. That's what it does. So okay, so that's it. That's the whole plugin. Okay, so let me give you this. Now is the time for my conclusion, and of course this is my opinion, right? If you're an Arturia fanboy, that's fine. If you really like them, that's fine. That's fine. This is my opinion. Don't get upset and don't get annoyed with me. I'm just gonna give you my opinion, and I'm gonna tell you what I know. This is why the video it's called No Bullshit Reviews. So again, I'm gonna go completely honest here. I like the plugin. I like what it does. It's just a plate reverb. Now in the market, there are a lot of other plate plugins that can do a much better job or the same job for much less money. This one is $900. It's expensive, and you don't get a lot of features. But in real life, of course, the EMT is just that. It just gives you the decay. and on and off. That's it, which is okay. But again, if this is an emulation, we should be getting a lot more options, maybe different plates. You should be getting something a little bit more for $100, right? And if you go to the Arturia product, you can see that the other ones, the intensity and the spring, they really want to work. The intensity has a crazy amount of features. The spring, you get a lot of different types of springs. You get a lot of type of, low pass right here. Let me just show you right here. Let me open, and you can do a pre-filter, and you have like 6 or 7 different types of filters. All right. You can, of course, do a much more detailed post-equalizer. You get much more tanks. You get a much more detailed input stage. So you get a really cool overdrive or saturation preamp stage. So if you think about this and you compare this with the other ones, this one is just not enough. You don't have a lot of features. And here's why. And this is the truth. This one, just like and let me just show you the course June 6th, which is again not a lot of plugging. They were released as free plugins when they started with the whole, thing of the plugins that you will never use. And they were free. They were free to use for users. If you were logged in or register to Arturia newsletter or something like that, they were giving them for free to promote the plugins. And then when the promotion was done, not, after they released the plugins, they say, okay, now it's $99. But this was intended to be free. The original idea for this plugin was free. So this plugin should be free. Now they're telling you that it's $900, which is crazy. So my opinion is just go and spend money on something else, maybe a different plate plugin that will give you much more options than this. Because remember, this one was intended to be free, so you're paying something that should be, free or cheap, right? Okay, that's my opinion, and that's what I know. So okay, so again, the pros is like it sounds nice, it sounds like a plate reverb, so it's cool. And the cons is that it should be free, all right? And again, don't get upset with me. This is my opinion. We can differ on this one. All right, so see you on the next one.